Hello, welcome to Holmes Community College Paramedic Program. Glad you're here. Tonight's lecture is on cardiac depolarization. So what is cardiac depolarization? So cardiac cell, the cells that make up the heart that are negatively charged awaiting a stimulus. The inside of the cell has a negative charge, and when an electrical stimulus triggers the beginning of the depolarization, there is an efflux of potassium, and there's a rush influx of sodium through the sodium channels, and slowly the calcium follows and causes contraction, depolarization. When we look at atrial depolarization, this is the atrial kick associated with the beginning of cardiac output that's associated with ventricular depolarization, that stroke volume that is part of the systolic phase of the cardiac output. When there is depolarization, there's followed by a repolarization where the sodium-potassium pump, modulated by magnesium, exchanges the sodium that had rushed inside the cell, moves it back out those sodium channels, and moves the potassium from the outside of the cell back into the cell, preparing it for the next stimulus, the next, in the case of the heart, electrical stimulus that will trigger either atrial and then ventricular depolarization, atrial contraction, atrial kick, ventricular depolarization, the amount of blood that's going to eject that stroke volume for the cardiac, half of the cardiac output along with the heart rate. The cardiac conductive system made up with the cardiac cells that have the ability to excite, to conduct. They have the ability for automaticity, and the myocardium has the ability of contractility. When we look at the automaticity, generally speaking, the cell with the fastest rate, the fastest intrinsic rate for discharge becomes the pacemaker of the heart. On a normal working heart, the electrical conduction system follows a pathway of specialized electrical conducting cells that start in the upper right atrium at the SA node. An SA node, sinoatrial node, has an intrinsic firing rate of 60 to 100. The SA node fires, and once that electrical stimulus begins, it's an all or none concept. So once that electrical stimulus starts at that SA node, it moves both atria simultaneously, and it moves from the SA node, from those internodal pathways, down to the AV node, which has an intrinsic rate of 40 to 60 beats per minute. From the SA node, there's a brief pause as that electrical energy is about to move from the atria into the ventricles. During that brief pause, this SA node electrical stimulus that has cascaded across both atria simultaneously has caused what? Atrial depolarization. There was an influx of sodium, an efflux of potassium, influx of calcium, and all those cells contracted, creating atrial kick, ejecting about 30% more blood into both ventricles, because the ventricles are now about to be stimulated as the electrical energy moves from the SA node, AV node, down the bundle of His, and moves to the right and left bundle branches. Right bundle branch, left bundle branch. There's a left anterior fascicle and a left posterior fascicle that break off of this left bundle branch that for the larger ventricles require for simultaneous depolarization, a greater pathway of electrical stimulus. And finally, the electrical energy makes it to the little Purkinje fibers that are at the bases of the right and left bundle branch. The electrical stimulus that had left the SA node internodal pathway caused atrial depolarization, paused briefly at the AV node, moved down the bundle of His, left and right bundle branches, caused the stimulus that rushed in the sodium, efflux, the potassium, allowed the calcium to come in, cause in sanctum ventricular contraction, Ejection over here on this left ventricle was the stroke volume. Ejection from the right ventricle went through the pulmonary trunk. This is the depolarization of all cells simultaneously. Finally, I have to say, for the intrinsic rate below the AV node, we've got a rate of 15 to 40. So with a normal working heart, the SA node is going to be the pacemaker of the heart because it has the highest automaticity rate of any of the cells on a normal working heart. That's depolarization of cardiac cells. Thanks.